What up, fam? So, I wanted to make this video because I got inspired after a YouTube video came across my timeline about delusional parasitosis. And I watched this video. It was about an hour long, and I watched it on 1.5 because that's normally how I like to watch videos, on 1.25 or 1.5. And I wanted to watch the whole video to the end, even though I knew that I was being triggered from watching the video. And the reason why I was being triggered from watching this video was because for me, there's so many parallels in the circumstances that I'm facing in my life when fighting other battles that I believe are incentivized through money. And that's what I would call corruption. Not giving a fair opportunity or due process. And in the situation when it comes to this epidemic, this public health crisis of No-See-Ums, it is in my personal opinion, based on my own anecdotal experience and third-party evidence and the experiences of other people, that there is more than meets the eye. And the fact that they have created a terminology like delusional parasitosis, also known as, I guess, Ecobomb syndrome, that it's almost as if it was created to counter people's claims that are valid, that they truly are dealing with this issue. And they created so many different counters, as if you are in a boxing match and your opponent already knows what you're going to do and what you're going to say. So they've already created all these different moves before you can do or say anything that would help deflect or block what it is you're saying. And to me, that is what delusional parasitosis is doing to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who authentically and have the credibility backed by so many different factors that they are experiencing what they're experiencing, and it is not all in their heads. And that's what I mean by it was triggering me, but I had to remain stoic in this because this is not the first time that I've been tested on being triggered. And it helped me in my past times when this has happened to keep practicing stoicism and allow the information to still enter into my brain so I can process without having an immediate bias reaction and then I shut it off, because I know that that's not going to help my case or help me represent us in our cases at all. That's going to be an easier way for them to, again, block and deflect with all these different barriers and these different factors that they've already created ahead of time, to almost a detriment that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's like, how do you win with that kind of circumstance that you're facing, right? With that kind of opponent that you're facing. And so this is the video here. This is one of the videos. And I just want to watch a small portion of the video. Like I said, I watched the whole thing, and we're not going to watch the whole thing here because it is an hour long. And I mean, no, not an hour long. It's 35 minutes long. Excuse me. I apologize. It's 35 minutes long. The hour was this and another video in totality, around the hour. But it was 35 minutes long. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I want you all to see some of this with me. And then we're going to step into another video that talks about the same thing. And then we're going to go into some research. This helped create a support. This helped support a research, we'll say, prompt, a research-based prompt that I use to add into some AI tools. That way I can get some feedback from these tools. And this is good practice for you all to do as well. Everything that I'm going to teach on this channel is going to be helpful in terms of fighting this problem. However, I believe things are interconnected, and that's why you hear me talk about other experiences in my life that some of you all may or may not want to hear about. And to be honest, as much as I love you, I don't care, because it's all connected. And these are lessons I believe we all need to learn, because this issue that we're dealing with is a microcosm of so many other lessons and issues in the history of the world and humanity. Except we're just dealing with it right now. We are the victims, or the unlucky ones, the chosen ones. But I can only imagine, not specifically this as what's happening, that's what's happening to us, but other instances in the world where people were dealing with something or feeling something and they weren't being believed, and they had valid reasons and valid issues that were beyond their control, and they weren't being heard. And so that's why I'm saying that these things are interconnected, and you're going to keep hearing me puzzle and piece or give some type of, we'll say, anecdotal feedback based on my own experiences in other ways, without going too deep, because I have other channels for that, right? Other outlets for that. But I still want to connect. I connect everything in every outlet. So something that, if you don't like that, then this might not be the channel for you. But if you're okay with that, and you're okay with taking accountability, you're okay with taking responsibility, you're okay with self-reflection and looking into your own being, your own well-being, and be able to say, okay, this is where you can improve, even if you are being hurt, externally. How can we still improve to be better internally? That's the kind of message that I'm looking to preach, because it's what I practice, right? So let's get into this video, and then we'll go into the next, and then we'll go deeper down the rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland.
Hello friends, today we're going to discuss about delusional parasitosis. I am Dr. Suresh Padadmat, Professor of Psychiatry, working at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. In this video, I'll be discussing about the evolution of delusional parasitosis, how to diagnose, the comorbidity, evaluation, and treatment of delusional parasitosis. Let's define delusion. According to Sims, delusion is a false fixed belief which is out of keeping with the patient's educational, social, and cultural background. Here the belief is held with extraordinary conviction and subjective certainty. Delusion is also of morbid origin is also an important criteria. In this background, let's understand what is delusional parasitosis. Delusional parasitosis is also called by various other terms such as Ekbom syndrome, Morgellons disease, delusional infestation, parasitophobia, acrophobia, parasitophobic neurodermatitis, unexplained dermatopathy. However, the term delusional parasitosis was given by Wilson and Miller in 1946. Robert Willen in 1799 reported the presence of delusional belief of infestation associated with intense pruritus, that is basically scratching of the skin. Later, George Thieberg in 1894 described a similar case of parasitophobic neurodermatitis in which a patient with a delusional conviction that he has been infected with mites. Later, Carl Ekbom in 1938 reported a series of 8 cases that presented with delusional conviction to be infested with small organisms such as insects, dragonflies, fleas, spiders. Since he gave a beautiful description, hence this illness was also called as Ekbom syndrome. Further, it is also called as presenile dermatozoic delusion, or also it is called as delusional of animal life in the skin. The clinical picture was named after Carl X. Ekbom. So hence it is called as Ekbom syndrome, focusing on abnormal sensation experienced by his patient. Classically, the patient will say, as if something is crawling on the skin or under the skin. Burrs and Carnot in 1954 characterized this syndrome and also considered as chronic tactile hallucinations. Invariably, many of the young junior residents do believe this is a tactile hallucination. However, Monroe in 1988 suggested that delusional parasitosis may represent monosymptomatic hypochondriacal psychosis. Monroe also described this delusion invariably will be single, monothematic, fixed hypochondriacal belief without any other thought disorder. The patient's personality is well preserved and even cognitive function. Now let's define delusional parasitosis. Invariably, delusional parasitosis is a group of neuropsychiatric disorder characterized by the recurrent, bizarre delusional belief that one's body is infested by parasites, insects, worms, tiny organisms, or even unanimated materials such as ropes, hairs, maybe even wool, in the absence of objective evidence supporting their belief. Here, the important criteria is it should be monosymptomatic, that is single delusion, and it is persistent belief of infestation either with living an organism or unanimated things also be there. You can see this diagram where
Okay, so let's stop there. The interesting part about that is, for me, I look at it as if, one, going back to what I said before, they've already created this definition that would almost eradicate most of what we would say immediately if we don't take our own precautions on how to say what we're going to say, because they've already added, and this is only 5 minutes in, and they've already added so many different things that, yeah, the possibility it could be this, you believe that this is happening, but also tells me in retrospect that are you saying that there are no such thing as mites and parasites and other things? Because to say that there's no such thing as that, then you're eliminating so many other known, factually known creatures in the world that are known. They're factually known. So right there already threw me off when it came to the way that they define this delusional parasitosis, because two things can be true at the same time. How are we going to define which one is which? Which one do we lean stronger to? It's never 50-50. People use the term 50-50. It's never 50-50. So which one has the starting stronger opportunity for us to define which direction is more likely true, unless we were able to counter it with valid arguments, valid testing. And right now it seems the way that he's explaining it, not him particularly. So this guy right here, I have nothing against. He is a messenger of this message. However, at the same time, for us to be able to validate that this is more likely delusional parasitosis versus that these things here don't exist or these things are not infesting our bodies, to me is wild. Absolutely wild. And going to the single delusion and the persistent belief of infestation. So you're going to define the terms. The more I believe it and believe it persistently, the less likely it is true, and the more likely it's delusional parasitosis. That's why the interesting part about these bugs, these No-See-Ums, even mites, any of these type of parasites, they are very persistent and resistant themselves. I've said that in previous videos. They're persistent. So of course, those of us who are going through this are going to be persistent in our claims, because these damn things don't stop. You would think they were descendants of Michael Jackson. Don't stop till you get it up. Like, they don't stop. They don't quit. And so it's like already right there, it's hard for me as a person who does a lot of research, and I do believe in science. And I do believe in testing. I don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and not believe in science because I don't agree with it. But when it comes to certain scientific direction, certain scientific beliefs, there are some times where I just look at scientists like, you are a part of the problem. Even though you have created many solutions, but I know in history and even in modern day business, take the story of halitosis, for example. Did you know that halitosis was created so that way they could sell us a solution of Listerine or mouthwash? Look it up. Many other things have done that in the history. Many other businesses and organizations have created a problem that didn't exist. Apple, for example. I have pretty much all Apple products when it comes to my computing ecosystem. You think I'm stupid not to believe that they intentionally took out the headphone jack that caused the problem so that way they can go in the direction of Bluetooth? And we just got used to, they intentionally took off the physical keyboard. That way we would have to touch a screen. And then we just got used to it. And that became the standard. So you're not gonna sit here and tell me that scientists don't intentionally create problems so they can sell us a solution. And it's not necessarily scientists, it's the organizations backing them, the powers with the money that backs them to create issues so that way they can sell us treatment, not a solution, to even be more specific. So let's see, I'm trying to see if there's anything, symptoms, subjectively perceived as realistic, high levels of distress, reoccurring physicians, consultations. Like, I swear, I kid you not, unless you've been in a damn courtroom and you've had to fight yourself against the law and you had to do it by yourself, with yourself, you have no idea what it means to fight against a system that uses verbiage, language, terminologies, procedures, formality, hell, even use Latin. They've already thought about all the things you would do or say to go against, so they already have the weaponry. And this is exactly the same thing, because things you would think are normal, they already have a response for it. This is the same ish. Like, of course you're gonna have reoccurring physician consultations if you are literally being infested by a bug you can't see. Not delusional, but it's actually happening. Of course you're gonna be visiting. What, are you just not gonna do anything? So it's like that, it's like the logic behind some of this is absolutely evil, in my opinion. Absolutely evil. Patients usually feel like they're not being taken seriously. This is the symptoms. Of course you're gonna feel like you're not being taken seriously if you actually feel something touching you, biting you, irritating you, and they're not believing you. Well, the reaction of that is not being taken seriously. Oh, they're not being taken seriously, so that's a check mark in a checkbox that you possibly can be delusional. You're refusing to engage in psychotherapy. Oh, I'm refusing to have a therapist? I'm refusing for you to look into my head? You quickly get disappointed or angry. So I'm supposed to be smiling and happy and cheerful when I'm being infested by a bug. Or else, if I'm mad and angry, I might be symptomatic of delusional parasitosis. Do you see where I'm going with this, or do I sound crazy to you? I'm okay if I sound crazy. I'm a little crazy, poquito. But I'm crazy in a good way, meaning I'm not letting this stop me from fulfilling my goals, from continuing my mission, from waking up and doing the things I know I need to do, from supporting you, from creating this content. And this has stopped me from doing so much. But then I have to look in the damn mirror and say, Maestro, nope, this is a test. This is another challenge. You said you wanted to be successful. You said you wanted to help heal the world in your own way. You wanted to help be great. You want to help others be great. You wanted to do great things. You're not going to be able to do it without some kind of force. This is how I use that for me. I don't know what you use for you, but this is how I use it for me. It doesn't mean I'm psychotic or I'm delusional. I mean, it's crazy. You know, they dig into their skin in an attempt to get rid of fibers and thread. Like, the way that they have this, they make us sound like we're mental patients. We need to be in a psych ward. Excessive use of disinfectants, antiseptics, and chemicals to get rid of parasites. I have a boatload of those things. Many of us do. Why? Because we're trying to get rid of something that these scientists and these doctors, these medical professionals, practitioners, government officials, they will not acknowledge and help us. So guess what? You have to do it yourself. If you want to get something done right, oftentimes you got to do it yourself. But in their case, if you're doing this, you might be delusional, crazy. Excessive application of creams, insecticide, excessive washing and cleaning. Yes, we're taking salt, but we're trying everything we can to get rid of something we physically know is there because we actually see this thing. You might see it in the camera right now. If the light, you might say, "Oh, Maestro, you got some dust you need to." No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. This ain't dust. If you see something fly in the camera lens, because it's like, it ain't dust. I have 2 really good air purifiers. One really big one and one medium-sized one. It ain't no dust. I keep my stuff clean. It ain't dust if you see it in the camera lens. But that's how they try to make it seem. Go ahead. If you don't even know what this looks like, take out your phone, turn off the lights. Sound like an R&B song. Turn off the lights and light a candle. No, but seriously, take out your phone, turn off the lights, and turn on your flashlight. Turn on your camera and watch what happens. It ain't dust. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Now, I'm just skipping. I'll add the video that I'm watching here. I'll add it in the description so you can watch the whole thing for yourself. But this blew my mind. Blew my mind. And then the prototype patient. Interesting. And this is not the first time I saw this. A middle-aged woman. And on the other video that we're going to see, they say usually after menopause. Now, listen, I don't know. I'm no diagnosis. I can't diagnose nobody. I know we all go through things as we get older. And I think it's interesting that they're saying that a middle-aged woman is more likely to have delusional parasitosis. It says right here, prototype patient. However, if I hadn't talked to many middle-aged women, maybe I would be as ignorant or stupid as them. That I 100% believe they have an infestation happening, a reality-based, a real-life-based infestation happening in their lives. I don't agree with everybody. Heck, I don't agree with a lot of people that I believe are delusional in different ways. That's a different channel for a different topic for a different day. However, when it comes to this situation, I absolutely am more likely to believe people, doesn't matter what age you are, what gender you are, what race, heritage, creed you are, doesn't matter. If you have described a lot of the symptoms that we are dealing with, I'm more likely to believe you don't have delusional parasitosis and that you are dealing with a real life infestation. See, it's the people here that aren't dealing with it. That's why I said you got to connect this to a lot of other things in the world. Not the city, but the world, Craig. A lot of people don't want to hear that. Some people want to believe what they want to believe, what they've been taught, what they know, what's in the history books, because it feels good. It's comfort. And only until you are met with a immovable force, an object that you decide to be like, oh, whoa, what is this thing in front of me? I've never seen this before. Whoa, let me learn something new. That is the flaw of human beings. Again, that has nothing to do with your gender, your race, your age, your religion. That is the flaw of human beings. Prototype patient, consulting a dermatologist, being infected by some parasite, occasionally sees and usually feels on their skin, head, eyes. I feel these things everywhere on my body. Everywhere. Everywhere. You know, in the beginning videos of this channel, I wasn't showing my face. And there's gonna be days like today and many other days where I regret it. I regret showing my face. I don't want to be the poster boy, the poster man, the poster child for this situation. I don't want to be vulnerable, not just to the actual infestation of a bug, but be vulnerable to other human beings that would love to use this and will use this against me in some way, or use this to judge me, shame me. But I've been through so much, surpassed so many obstacles. This is just another one. This is just another one in my life. And I'm so much stronger at the age of 38 than I was at 28 or 18. And I ain't going backwards. What about you? So this, all that hoo-ha and hoopla that I'm sure I'm gonna get from all this content on this subject matter, I ain't worried about that. I'm more worried about people trying to cover this up. It's so crazy in history where your findings and your discovery could create your absolution. There are so many things in history, if a person did not discover or find, they would have had more time on this earth. That's a scary thought. Let that sink in for a second. Your discovery and findings, although later in time, they become validated. They may surface to the world, maybe. And afterwards, they'll be considered true, credible. But at that moment in time, and then they have this personality who is well reserved or well preserved. So the way that I see that is, you seem normal. The prototype patient, a person who seems normal. What the fuck? What? Like, what? That's why, is it making sense? Like, regular stuff, things that a typical human being would be feeling if they were being infested by a bug, but they've already marked that as, potential symptoms of delusion, parasitosis. Man, I mean, presence of delusions where the duration of less than a month or more than a month. The less more than sign always confuses me. I don't know. I don't care. Rules out other causes of delusions. Not better explained by another medical condition or mental disorder. Aside from delusion, behaviors are not bizarre, odd, and functioning is markedly impaired. Central theme of delusion involves bodily functions and sensations. Keep in mind following different diagnoses. Okay, you can read the rest of that. And then he goes into this to go over the types of the DSM-5 and the ICD-10s, the insane clown posses and the other, I'm just making stuff up now. But you get what I'm saying. Like, they got numbers and acronyms for everything. For everything. And then they got classification. And this is the funny part. Neurologic disorders. I'm not even going to say this word because I ain't got time for it. Mental deterioration and retardation, dementia, delirium, neurodegenerative diseases, traumatic brain injuries, cerebral neoplasm, multiple sclerosis. I mean, come on, substance intoxication, amphetamines, cocaine, hallucinogens, cannabis, weed, synthetic whatever, alcohol. I mean, what substance withdrawal? Substance intoxication. Okay, so wait, which one? So it's if I intake it and if I stop taking it, I still can have the secondary causes of me being delusional parasitosis. Man, what? If you are dealing with an infestation that you can't explain and nobody else that doesn't have it believes you, that's not a justification to try to use some type of relief to do some, like, if the medicine that you're trying, the doctors you're talking to, professionals, and you just need some relief to not feel that or to feel good while going through that. But based on this, you could have the symptoms or the cause of being delusion. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, everything you do or don't do can and will be used against you in the court of law. Or in this case, the court of delusional parasitosis. Then he gives some charts, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I'm going to go to the next one. Because I want you to see. I like to give different angles. So, and I'm big on, not just different angles, but different perspectives for men, for women, different ethnicities, different ages. I'm going to give you, because I want to eliminate excuses. I'm an excuse eliminator. That's why I don't have a lot of friends. I do not have a lot of friends at all. I'm okay with that. Because I make people self-reflect, look in the mirror. And I do the same thing. Do not get me wrong. I do the same thing. And so I want to eliminate as many excuses as possible because that's how we get to the nitty gritty. If you can't keep refuting things because you keep hitting with some really good counters and really great reasons, not excuses, it makes it hard for you to have a genuine argument. That's why we call it disingenuous arguments. You're arguing disingenuously. You're just arguing just to argue, just to argue. You really don't have any valid reason why you're arguing. You just don't want to be wrong. In this case, we have two different people, two different genders, and they are a different ethnicity, unless somehow this guy, did a ethnic transition. You never know these days, and used to be white or something like that, or Caucasian, or whatever the case is, or vice versa. So let's look at what they got to say.
Today, we are going to explore how physicians can manage delusions of parasitosis, DOP for short, a psychiatric disorder where individuals have a false belief that they are infested with parasites, which can lead to significant distress, as you can imagine, and repeated visits to the dermatologist and primary care physicians. Our guest today is Dr. Nicholas Brownstone, a friend of mine and a rising dermatologist and host of another dermatology podcast called Cutaneous Miscellaneous. Everyone should check it out. Dr. Brownstone has written extensively on this topic and will give us his insight into how delusions of parasitosis is best managed and treated. Dr. Brownstone, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Hannah, it's great to be here. I love your show, obviously. I love how you bring on so many experts in the field discussing their research, their work, and I'm just happy to be a guest here and talk about something I love to discuss, which is delusions of parasitosis and psychodermatology.
Great. So let's begin with the basics. Can you give us an introduction to what delusions of parasitosis is? What the difference is between a primary delusions of parasitosis and a secondary?
Sure. So it's pretty straightforward. We all remember from medical school, delusion means fixed false belief, and parasitosis obviously has to do with parasites. So these patients have a fixed false belief that they're infested with parasites. That's how it presents. And some people call it delusions of parasitosis, DOP. Some people call it delusional infestation, or DI. Some people even call it Morgellons disease. It's kind of an eponym, which we can talk about later. But
I call it bull crap. That's what I call it. How many curse words have I cussed in this video? Because I don't want to do too many. I call it bullshit. This is PG-13. PG-13, they let them cuss so many times before they turn it rated R.
You may hear it mentioned in those terms as well. And it is important, like you mentioned, about primary versus secondary DOP. Like most things in medicine, primary, let me talk about secondary first. That's important. So secondary means delusions secondary to intoxication from substances like alcohol or illicit drugs, or withdrawal from these illicit substances, or obviously as a secondary manifestation of a greater psychiatric illness like schizophrenia. These patients have psychiatric psychotic symptoms, and this could be a manifestation of that, or a patient could have major depressive disorder with psychotic features, and this could be a manifestation of that as well. So it's important to rule out those secondary causes. Primary is what most of us will probably see in clinic. This is of no known origin, and not due to the things I mentioned, but usually this is seen in postmenopausal older women. That's the classic demographic for a DOP patient, although it could show up in any age range and any sex for sure.
Wow, so there's a lot going on here, as you can see. What are the common...
See, the shit that bothers me, that's another curse word. Dang, I gotta stop cussing for this turns in rated R. So what bothers me is the smiles, the happiness. You know, if I weren't a good person at heart, I know I can be an a-hole. I know I can be. And I am not in terms of being unfair. I'm a very fair person. Very fair person. I'm talking about I don't fall for anything. You stand for nothing, you fall for anything. That's not me. I'm not docile. I'm peaceful, but I'm not docile. And if I were a mean-hearted person, I would say, I hope them and their kids get this. I bet you that would smack all that smile off their face. But that's not me. At least not yet. No, I'm just joking. The point being is that I get there on a podcast. I get he's excited to be there. I get, you know, this is in a public appearance. I do public appearances. I'm doing one right now. Except I'm so okay with me. It's so funny that I laugh when a doctor, even like my doctor or previous doctor before I had to fire his butt, kick him out the door, when he diagnosed me of delusional parasitosis, and he used the exact same, it was the trickery. He made me seem like he was gonna believe me. Oh yeah, we're gonna help you with that, Mr. Stevens. Oh yeah, we're gonna do that, blah, 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 and BS. But if I were that kind of person, I would hope and wish that upon them, so that way they understood what we're dealing with, what you might be dealing with, what you could be dealing with, because this is absolutely sick to me. And when I listen to them talk, and I listen to the other guy talk, and these are medical professionals, I'm curious, have they ever felt anything like this? What would happen if it was like a movie? You ever notice in movies where you have somebody who is this professional person, typically a movie that there's a medical professional or an official or a politician or a rich person, and the movie is about it flipping on them, and basically whatever it is that they usually would be ahead of or in charge of, now something else is in charge of them, and now they're feeling what others felt who they were overseeing. I'm sure you've seen movies like that before. And this is, to me, one of those same situations that needs to happen. I'm sure it has happened to somebody out there watching this. And they are being suppressed, or they are ashamed, or they're not voicing their opinion, or they're not voicing the facts. And this is one of those situations where ain't nothing pretty about this. Now, I'm making it lighthearted and jokey because, you know, I like to do my edutainment side of things, give a little bit of education with a little bit of entertainment, keep things lighthearted, because I know that this is depressing for a lot of people. And just because you're depressed of this does not mean you're delusional. That's crazy that they even do that. This would depress anybody going through something like this. But if you don't say the right words and you don't eliminate their factors of the symptoms and causes, they're gonna just put you in the category, they're gonna box you in.
Common symptoms that we see with DOP, and are they the same symptoms for both primary and secondary?
Yeah, the symptoms are going to be the same, and it's a very straightforward kind of diagnosis to make. The patient will come in and usually talk about that there's parasites on their skin. They feel a crawling sensation, a biting and stinging sensation. That's what we mostly hear. Now, also patients can talk about inanimate objects like blue fibers coming out of their eye, coming out of their skin. That's another manifestation of DOP as well. And it's very important, I should mention, to always rule out a bona fide skin illness first. You can't just say, oh, the patient's crazy. They look crazy. They're talking about crazy things. They're just a crazy person, right? I've seen maybe 1 or 2 patients where, guess what? It turns out they have scabies. They're itching like crazy. They don't have the bumps in the obvious areas. And, it turns out they were treated for scabies. They did great. That was the case there. So it's always important to do a bona fide skin exam. But you're going to see patients that have excoriations.
Now, did you hear anything? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my ears are not hearing well because I have bugs trying to crawl in them and out them type of thing. Or maybe I'm delusional. But did you hear anything of him saying about validating that there's actually bugs and insects and parasites that are existing in this world and they're not aliens? And maybe that could be the case? I didn't hear anything like that. I heard skin diseases and skin things. I didn't hear anything about an external source that actually is affecting the patient. It's either you're delusional or you might have something of the skin. This is crazy. Like, what? And these are the people that we look into and we look up to and we trust with our lives. Again, I'm not talking about these people personally. I don't know them personally, all right? So anything I say is not personally against them. I'm saying people in their position.
Neurotic excoriations, pattern excoriations in some of the areas. They're going to be talking about parasites, and they're probably going to say, I've been to many other doctors and no one can really help me. And some of the textbooks call it the matchbox sign. What that means is patients will bring in Ziploc bags or matchboxes of their hair, of lint, of dirt, of skin cells, and they'll say, look, here are the parasites. They've been falling off my skin. That's something that's commonly seen too, referred to as the matchbox sign, but usually not brought in a matchbox.
Got it.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So I have to ask, how did you get interested in this topic? I mean, there are a lot of doctors who may just write it off.
I don't care. Okay, you can watch the rest of the video. You can see it on the screen. I'll put it in the description of this video. But you can see here 2 different videos of these doctors or these scientists or doctor scientists or doctor-ists, I don't know, that are describing delusional parasitosis, but nothing that I heard gives validation for them to say, you know what? There is a possibility. Now, based on everything we've shown you, okay, this is what we can say is the symptoms and probably, but on the other hand, there is a possibility that the patient is actually being infested by a bug, by an external source. I didn't hear nothing in either of these videos. You can tell me in the comments yourself when you watch the videos, did you hear anything? But I didn't hear anything. So are we saying parasites and mites aren't real? And they aren't out of control? Is that what we're saying? That they're not really affecting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people on an everyday basis, and that some people just don't know it's happening because they can't see them? That's why we're using a general term called No-See-Ums. It's not because that's what these bugs are. It's because we don't see them, and it's just a general term for us to name them something, call them something. So what I've done is I used ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and another app called Consensus, and I prompted them with this particular prompt. Now, it's a long prompt, and it's a long prompt on purpose because I wanted to do some thorough research. I also used the best models of these AI tools, okay? So basically the smartest models, the thinking models, the reasoning models, not the models that give you quick, fast answers, but the models, right? The brains of the AI tools that really dig deep. They dig deep on genius grade level. I use these kind of models. So for ChatGPT, I'm using 5.2 thinking, and I should use extended thinking. I use standard, but I use thinking, and I use the search tool as well. And here is the prompt. Conduct a structured evidence-based comparison between the documented public health impacts of biting midges, commonly referred to as No-See-Ums, and the medical diagnosis of delusional parasitosis. Address the following explicitly. Entomological, I hate that word, and public health evidence, summarize CDC. I'm not gonna read this whole thing out loud. You can pause and get the definition, read it if you want to. I'm just kind of going over the highlights of it. So summarize CDC, EPA, peer-reviewed findings, clarify the limits of visual detection, clinical definition, diagnostic criteria, define delusional parasitosis, explain diagnostic thresholds required, points of diagnostic collision, analyze why symptoms associated with No-See-Ums exposure, examine how invisibility, intermittent exposure, systemic and institutional factors, evaluate weather, time constraints, discuss historical parallels, dual truth framework, access whether it is medically and scientifically plausible for both conditions, proposes, you get it, right? I mean, I gave it a very thorough prompt. That's what you need to be doing as well too. And I didn't come up with this on my own. I gave ChatGPT a small prompt that said, hey, create a prompt for me. And this is the prompt that it created for me when I gave it a small prompt. I said, do a comparison and contrast between delusional parasitosis and the CDC and the real known public health crisis. And then it came up with this prompt here. Then I took that prompt, I opened up a new chat thread, and this is what you see here. And then I let it think for 3 minutes and 44 seconds. I did not do the deep research. I did not want to do the deep research. I wanted to do a live just search right quick right here. And here we go. This is the answer that it gave me. So again, you can pause the video. I'm just gonna go over some of the highlights and we can pick apart the patterns. I'm a pattern picker. That's a part of what I have to do in my business and my profession. And so I have to see evidence from analytics, and then I have to see the patterns. That way we can get insights, because information is not insights. Information is information. And that's oftentimes why we get bogged down in the information, in the content, because we haven't picked out what the most important things are and how they connect. What are the patterns that we see? And that's something that I do really great in my profession. So what the CDC and public health guidance actually document, biting midges. So the CDC has acknowledged that biting midges are real and that there is a virus coming from them. This is a fact, evidence. Interesting that none of that I saw on the videos of the delusional parasitosis, none of them incorporate this into their findings. That would be why? Because it would contradict, or it would kind of block some of the things, possibilities of the delusional parasitosis. But how interesting. How two things can be true. Yes, delusional parasitosis can be real, but it's also a fact that No-See-Ums, and they deliver a virus and that they are infesting, that's also factually proven. So then it would then contradict or contrast the delusional parasitosis and all the treatments that they want to give to you. And guess what? Those treatments aren't. They aren't free. Those treatments are not free. Somebody's paying for them. CDC guidance documented bite effect in allergy, dermatology applied, entomology literature. No-See-Ums biting midges. Dermatology literature recognizes the midges can trigger papillary. I hate scientific words. Oh my God, I do. Especially when I'm doing public videos like this, because this made me look like I can't read. Dang. Trying to make me sound like I'm R. Kelly or something. Extension, public health, IPM. That's no diss to R. Kelly, but at the same time, yeesh. Extension, public health, IPM materials, secondary complications, the downstream impact, severe itch and irritation can drive scratching, listen, I ain't got time for it. Raising the risk of secondary skin infection. This can be, okay, why patients can truthfully report a confusing story. Limits of visual detection, bite latency and sensation, sensitization, I guess, whatever the case is. Intermittent environment linked exposure. And then we have clinical definitions of diagnostic criteria, delusional parasitosis, delusional infestation, core concept. Here, delusional infestation is defined by a fixed false belief of infestation despite lack of objective evidence. DSM-5, we just looked at that. ICD framing, delusional disorder description emphasizes persistent delusions. Often, is that more or less? Again, I told y'all before, I suck with that sign. Diagnosis thresholds, what must be excluded. Points of diagnostic collusion. I said collusion. Collision. This is where people get burned. Why No-See-Ums exposure can look like delusional infestation. Why they can look like it, right? Where people like us get burned. Invisibility, intermittent exposure, latency, non-specific lesions, clinical unfamiliarity with biting midges. I mean, really? I mean, clinician. Really? Like, the CDC has already reported this stuff, but yet clinicians are still unfamiliar? Why have all the clinicians and doctors not get, like, you know how you be getting those alerts on your phone? How could they all didn't get an alert? Beep, 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 beep. Hey, there's this bug out here biting people. We probably want to put that into. There's a reason why. There's a reason why. If they did get it, they're ignoring it. Systemic and institutional factors. Psychiatric labeling can happen early. What literature reports. What's strongly plausible and consistent with known diagnostic error patterns, historical pattern, dual truth framework. Yes, so this is where it goes to the point where I make can both things be true. You ever heard that term before? Two things can be true. That's not always the case, but it is sometimes the case. Across different patients, some have genuine arthropod exposure, including midges. Others have primary DI. Within the same patient over time, a person can have real bites initially, then develop persistent hypervigilance, catastrophic interpretation, or fixed beliefs that outline the exposure, right? So decision-making framework, differentiating exposure from delusional disorder. Step 1, safety and skin integrity. Step 2, exposure logic. Step 3, targeted exam. Step 4, objective evidence attempt. Make it easy to be right. Step 5, exclusion workup before DI. Rule out common infestations and dermatosis. Step 6, only then consider DI. Ethical patient outcomes, implications, risk of misdiagnosing real exposures as delusional. Delayed environmental control and symptom relief, trust collapse, care avoidance, escalation of distress, public health blind spots, risk of missing DI when persistent. Recommendations for multidisciplinary rigor first, non-dismissive care. Dermatology-led skin triage, entomology-informed exposure assessment, infectious disease, tropical medicine involvement, psychiatry, and psychoderm collaboration in a neutral setting to reduce stigma. So that's ChatGPT right there, okay? Then we have Claude. I used the same prompt inside of Claude. I copy and pasted, tell it to do its thing. How long did it? It's not gonna tell me how long it did its research for, but it went through a lot of steps. Here. And I'm using in Claude Opus 4.5. This is the smartest model. And I even turned on thinking to give it some extra juice. So like I said, I'm using the smartest models, genius models, and the genius version of the model, right? So you have entomological and public health evidence of No-See-Ums. That's why I can't stand reading scientific stuff, because it just be all these words that will trip you up because you're just not used to reading them on an everyday basis. But either way, documented health impacts, biting midges of the, and I hate this word too, so blah, 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 are tiny blood-sucking flies. They're not really flies, but they do fly. Documented dermatological and systemic effects include pruritus and inflammatory reactions, immunological complexity, disease factor potential, factors complicating patient self-reporting, visual detection limits, bite latency, we've already saw that as well, environmental exposure variability. Let me make this a little bigger. And see, I already said that. Clinical definition of diagnostic criteria for delusional parasitosis, so that DSM-5 classification, key diagnostic frame requirements. So I'm going to skip all this because you can pause the video and read this. That's why I made it a little bigger for you. 3 points of diagnostic collision. Notice that they both said the word collision, diagnostic collision on both of them. System overlap. So there is so much overlap in both situations. The invisibility problem, right? Arthropod bite reactions will vary significantly from person to person. For this reason, even a dermatologist can't determine what bit a person solely based on the appearance of the bite. So then it's like, how do we get help then? Like, that's what makes it so crazy in this situation. The matchbox sign. So didn't we just hear about the matchbox sign from the video, right? Assumption type of thing, which is even crazier that, if they've taken out their hair as samples and put it in a plastic bag, that's the matchbox sign. Systemic and institutional factors, time constraints, more stuff. I like this chart right here. Both conditions are medically real. So factor, this suggests environment exposure, suggests delusional parasitosis. Geographic, known body midge habitat, seasonal patterns, no correlation with known vectors. Then we have household distribution. So for suggestive environmental exposure, multiple occupants affected. That's not true, because many of us are the only person in our household affected. So it's not multiple. Single individual affected, others unaffected. That could suggest delusional parasitosis. See how crazy this stuff is? Temporal pattern correlates with outdoor exposure, dusk dawn. Suggested delusional, random, persistent, no environmental trigger. Isn't that crazy? A lot of us are feeling this inside of our homes and our cars, inside of restaurants, inside of buildings. But you would look at this and say, if that's the case, you might be delusional. Response to environment change. Symptoms improve when relocated. No, they don't. See what I'm like? Look at how this is crazy. This drives me crazy. Symptoms do not improve when we relocate. Many of us have moved somewhere else and we're still feeling the same thing. They're on our stuff and they're actually in the atmosphere. They're in the environment. So even if we move, if they're already there or they're in the environment, it doesn't matter whether we relocate or not. They're on our belongings and they're already in the environment. Symptoms persist regardless of location. You're delusional. See, so that's what I'm saying. Listen, I hope somebody is learning from this video, because listen how important it is for you to understand these things, because they've already created the maximum weapon. They got a gun cocked and loaded and they are ready to fire at everything. Machine gun Kelly, yo butt. Everything you can throw at, they're ready to throw everything at you, because all this stuff that we're dealing with, it would make us seem like we're delusional. How can we all be delusional? Even if two people weren't delusional and the rest were, they need to study those two people for the possibility that those two people, could be the starting factor of why those other people are actually feeling what the two people feel. But they don't even want to do that. Specimen quality, identifiable arthropod parts, fibers, debris, skin fragments only for suggestions of delusional parasitosis. Cognitive features, no psychiatric, I don't even know what that word is, comorbidities, evidence of somatization, cognitive impairment. Drug substance history, no contributing factors. Suggestions for delusional parasitosis, stimulant use, medical side effects. This is America. I've done the research. Most people in America either drink alcohol or smoke weed. Most people, most parents do. But if you go to the doctor and they ask you the question, do you drink alcohol? Do you smoke marijuana? You might be. Let me check that on the box. Like, what? And both of those things are legal. Alcohol is legal in all states, but marijuana is illegal in a lot of states. Response to the treatment. Respond to insect avoidance control. Respond to antipsychotic medication. It is, I'll let you read the rest of this. But what I like here is public health blind spots. CDC is working to learn more about the potential risks of emerging midge-borne diseases. See, they're only contributing, or they're only fueled, in my opinion, by the fact of it causing a disease. They're not fueled by the fact that people's lives have been turned upside down and we have to throw away our stuff. We have to buy buy new products and new clothes. We have to live a different lifestyle than anybody else who is not feeling this. They're not fueled or incentivized by that happening to us personally on personal level. They don't care about that. It's only the fact that, it causes a disease or a virus. So those of us who don't have a disease or virus, we're not even on their radar. If patients with genuine midge exposure are systematically diagnosed as delusional, epidemiological, whatever the case is, surveillance fails. So basically, yeah, they fail if people like us who are actually feeling this were diagnosed as delusional. That was Claude. Here is Gemini. So same prompt, and I'm using Gemini Thinking. 3 Pro with Thinking. Same thing. Now this one I'm not gonna go over. I'm gonna just scroll through and let y'all pause it. But I'm telling y'all, there's patterns of them all saying a very similar or same thing. There's patterns that you can see. Patterns. I like that this came up with a table too. Clinical presentation, interpretation of midge exposure, interpretation of delusional parasitosis. I can't see them. Accurate description of a 1 millimeter midge. Hallmark of the invisible bug, delusional. Specimen sample, patient attempts to catch the tiny flies. They're not flies. Collects dust lint because midges are elusive. That's interpretation of midge exposure. The matchbox sign bringing debris is viewed as pathognomonic for DP, delusional parasitosis. Itches at night correlates with midge feeding times or circadian histamine cycles. These things feed all day. Yes, they have the times where they're not feeding on you during the day or even sometimes during a certain time at night, but you can be bothered all day. And then you may go one day or a few hours without getting bit, but you can still feel them. But then it's going to turn back around and you will feel them again. Interpreted as psychological fixation during quiet hours, family unaffected. Midges target individuals based on CO2, body chemistry, highly variable allergic responses. Or delusional. Interpreted as lack of environmental cause. The Foley do is rare. That's do, right? I don't know. Do what it do. There we go. So systemic factors here. You can already see this. Dual truth framework, a decision matrix, right? It's scientifically plausible for both conditions to exist simultaneously. Boom. But again, it's never 50-50. Which one is more of the case? Which one is more stronger of a case than the other one? Is it people that are making these claims that are more likely to be delusional, or people that are making these claims are more likely to actually be dealing with an infestation? Which one? Because it ain't 50-50. It's 55-45, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20. And I bet you can guess the doctors, the medical professionals, and practitioners which one they want to veer it towards. I bet you can guess that. I bet you that. Proposed decision-making framework, ethical and patient outcome, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that was Gemini, right? Now, here is a different type of AI tool. And the best way I can describe this as this is a peer-reviewed AI tool. Although these touched on some quote-unquote peer-reviewed paperwork, or studies. And I did add that in the framework of the original prompt. These tools aren't meant for peer-reviewed. So if you ever use these tools for deep research and for research in general, I just want to let you know that a lot of peer-reviewed studies are gated. They're behind certain platforms, and you're not gonna be able to find them. And this particular tool called Consensus and other tools like it, this is actually basing all of its knowledge on peer-reviewed studies. Whereas these other ones, they will take articles, they'll take social media, they'll take different sources from different places, and some peer-reviewed, but this is specifically peer-reviewed. Specifically, it was made for peer-reviewed studies. That's why I love this one, because it's much different than the other ones. And so I did a deep research with the Pro model on this one, and I put in the same prompt, okay? So it does the introduction, it goes over that, it goes over the methods right here. I'll let you screenshot that. So it gives you what it did. It identified over 1,000 articles. It screened 720. There 397 were eligible, but it only included 20 in its overall synthesis. That's how it worked, right? And it gives you how it did it. That's why I really love this tool right here. It's different than the others. They play different roles in your whole workflow, I guess, figuring things out or using AI. And I could have, if I really wanted to, I could have just went to medical, but I didn't want to do that because the reason why is because I use these filters here. And within these filters, you're able to narrow down field of studies. So I use biology, chemistry, economics, education, environmental science, medicine, political science, psychology, and sociology, okay? I use these filters right here. I did not do any year. I just did any time, right? I just did any time. And I did all countries. I did not specify a certain country, okay? So just to give you my whole method when it came to that, right? Results. So here are the results here. I'll let you read those. You can pause this. That's why I'm kind of slowing it down here. You can pause this as well. Systemic and institutional factors, dual truth. So a lot of them are helping with the dual truth framework. That's what I asked for. Boom. Results timeline. So it goes over the timeline of where the results came from. I like this chart as well too. Most of the results came from 2015 until now, right? You see that 2015 to now are most of the results from these articles, these peer-reviewed articles came from. Here are the authors, so top contributors to these. That's what I like about this as well too, right here. And then we have discussion. The evidence demonstrates that body midges are a genuine public concern, capable of causing significant dermatological and psychological symptoms, and in rare cases, transmitting pathogens. However, the clinical presentation of the midge exposure can closely resemble that of delusional parasitosis, especially when environmental exposure is not easily confirmed and clinicians lack entomological expertise. So why the hell aren't the clinicians working with the scientists, the bug scientists? Why aren't they talking together? How many people eat peanut butter without the jelly? It's called peanut butter and jelly sandwich for a reason. So the fact that they're not cooperating, collaborating, is doing us as the public a disservice. That's the reason why there's so much gap in between what's happening, because they're not talking together. I'm just reading y'all the facts. This is sad. Here's another chart right here, claims and evidence table. I really like this. This was a really good chart right here. I like to see charts and graphs and pictures. It helps synthesize and visualize some of the information. We all need that because sometimes it's just a lot of words. As y'all can see, I was struggling with some of these words here, but it is what it is. So we have the claim, the evidence strength, the reasoning, and then the papers. And I love that because you can always go to the full context. You can go to the details, where it came from, of the situation. And then you can go, like, for instance here, this is the PDF. Oh, it downloaded instead. Let me verify I'm human. I'm just giving you all guys a real quick. So it always shows the source of where it came from. I really like this tool because it will let you see the exact source, and it rarely, if ever, hallucinates. Rarely, if ever. Why? Because it's using the sources. That's why this is a different tool. Conclusion. Body midges and delusional parasitosis represent distinct but sometimes overlapping public health and clinical challenges. Accurate diagnosis requires a careful exclusion of genuine infestations and environmental exposures, as well as awareness of systemic and institutional biases. That's what we're dealing with, systemic and institutional biases. Why? Because they make money off of treatment, not money off of the solution. Meaning, like when I say solution, I'm talking about getting rid of the thing that's causing the problem. They have the power to get rid of the thing that's causing us problems. Instead, they want to treat. Why? Because treatment, you got to come back for more. And guess what it costs? Money. A multidisciplinary evidence-based approach is essential to reduce misdiagnosis and improve patient outcomes. Here's another chart or research gaps matrix. So it's another graph here right here. I'll let you guys pause this, take a look at this so you can see. I like how it highlights the colors, makes it easy to see. And then we have some open research questions here. I like this as well. And then after that, basically you can, I usually would export this if I wanted to, just like the other ones. And then it shows you the results. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show y'all in this video. I know this video is a little long, but I don't care because I like making long form videos. And then that way later I can chop it up and create like 5 or 6 videos off the long form video. And there's some people that want to see the long form, even if they don't watch it in the full setting, the whole setting. It's like streaming. You know, sometimes you watch movies these days, oftentimes, and you need to pause it to go, you know, make some popcorn, go get something to drink. Or, you know what I'm saying, something happens, somebody calls you, you watching the movie, like, and then you need to pause it real quick, boom, 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 boom. You know, you can't really do that with the movie theaters, you know what I'm saying? So we're in a day and age where we want that, what do they call it, DVR type of feel. We want to be able to pause, come back to it, soak it in when we want to, and that's why I like making long form videos, because I have a lot to say, 1. 2, I can chop it up and create multiple videos later, and 3, it helps me stay in the momentum, right? In the heat of the momentum, especially when speaking on something like this and allowing the passion to be more authentic. This was not scripted. I don't want to script these things. Now, I want to create a semi-outline of a plan before I just get on here, so that way I'm not on a big tangent and rant, even though you might see 1 or 2 of those every now and then. But at the same time, I also like to come with some direction, right? But I also want to be authentic and genuine in what I'm saying. Not saying people who outline or script things aren't authentic or genuine. At the same time, I like to just go with the flow. And so that's what I'm doing when it comes to these videos. That's why I'm showing my face now, because before I was not showing my face. I was scared to. And I would be lying if I didn't say there wasn't still a little factor of some fear. But if I ever let fear hold me back or keep me from accomplishing or doing what I want to do, I would not be where I'm at mentally. And that's how I know that these doctors, they're more cuckoo or quackers or quacks than the people that they're diagnosing, because I know for a fact, I'm talking about a fact, that I'm not delusional. I'm not delusional. When it comes to my aspirations of succeeding in the world and becoming a multimillionaire, even though that necessarily is not the environment that I came from, yes, you may say that's a little delusional if you were to diagnose me and say, well, why do you want to be this and how do you believe you're going to be successful? You didn't come from a successful home or a successful background. Heck, you don't even have a degree. Well, then I can understand why you would want to call me delusional. I'm okay with that. But that's how successful people have to become successful, especially when they don't come from a background of that being passed to them. It's the same thing when it comes to this issue, this crisis that we're facing. We have to be a little delusional, not delusional factors that they're saying, but a little delusional to know that we're going to get relief one day. And it's the voices that weren't afraid to speak out, and the people that weren't afraid to contact and to bug, for a lack of a better term, pun and no pun intended, to bug the state officials, the city officials, to bug and to nag the people that have the power to make change. We have to bother them the same way these bugs are bothering us. We have to be as persistent and resistant as these bugs are. La resistance. And if that takes some of us to make that sacrifice, to show our face, our likeness, and put it all on the table, I would be more of a coward in my heart, in my mission, if I did not do this, no matter what's at stake. And believe me, everything is at stake. I have a lot to lose because I've gained a lot, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm not where I was yesterday, and neither are you, especially if you're using this to grow even more in your path and your destination of life, whatever it is that you're doing. So I know that's a little heady, but damn it, these things, these bugs, the doctors are trying to say these are only in our head. So I got to give you a little bit of motivation and inspiration and let you know that it's okay, that we're bigger than this. And the situation that is happening is bigger than us individually. We individually are bigger than what they're doing to us. But us as a unit, the situation is happening, this is bigger than us. So we have to speak. I know I've been compelled to speak. Many are called and few are chosen. And the thing about that whole phrase, that whole saying, that whole verse, is that you decide whether or not you're chosen. The calling is the intuition in your heart. The calling is the feeling that you feel that something is wrong. That's the calling. The choice is yours to do something about it. All right, fam. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. No-See-Ums support. No-See-Ums Nation. No-See-Ums Foundation. I don't know. I just wanted to rhyme right there. But y'all feel me. Y'all get what I'm saying. If you've gotten something out of this video, please like the video. We need this to get out because they're going to suppress this video. They are. Please subscribe to the channel. More videos are to come. Put a comment. Don't be afraid to put a comment. Trust me, I'm showing my face, my likeness. My name is on the line. Don't be afraid to put a comment. Don't be afraid to speak up. Even if you don't like what I have to say, even if you disagree with it. I'm cool with that. I like civil discourse. What I don't want is disingenuous arguing. Deuces.